Welcome back once again to the gutter, the Grindhouse gutter, and this is where we let the professor smoke loose and let him pick our movie on this series every month. And the whole premise of this series is it has to be something from the Grindhouse days, the B movies, stuff that would have played in drive-in stuff, right? So mostly 60s, 70s, maybe a little bit of early 80s fare. So we are also in the middle of the Sasquatch summer. So that was this month was your other criteria. So it had to have something to do with Sasquatch or Sasquatch adjacent, right? So
Yeah.
With all that out of the way, your criteria, what did you bring to us this month?
Back in the last episode of Grindhouse Gutter, we did a, I guess you'd call it a classic. It was one of the first, if not the first, Bigfoot movies, right? Motion pictures, the Bigfoot from 1970, and not the best. It had its moments of fun or whatever, right? For this episode, though, there's a movie I've been, thinking about at some point, even going back to like before we had any specials, we were just doing the regular episodes, and I'd thought about it in the past and putting it on, when it was my pick to come around, but I just never did. I ended up going with something else, and I'm going to be bending the rules a little bit, I guess, because technically it's not really Bigfoot, even though I guess if if you get right down to it, Boggy Creek and Creature from Black Lake are technically not Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
They're Sasquatch, though, right? In the Sasquatch summer, I mean, at least they're the Falk monster, Boggy Creek monster, whatever, skunk apes, right? The southern variant of Bigfoot, though, basically, right? This one is another southern creature. Although they don't call him Bigfoot, they don't call him the Falk monster, they don't call him skunk ape. It's set in Louisiana, and the creature is referred to as the Swamp Thing. But anyway, this movie is The Monster and the Stripper is the version that it was released on VHS, and I don't think it did the rounds in the drive-ins and grindhouses under that title. It would have been done under the title The Exotic Ones. So it's directed by Ron Ormond from, I believe 1969 is what it's usually listed as. It might have been 1968. But I think the release title is 1969, right?
Well, on IMDb, it's got it as 1968.
68, see, yeah. But whether it was 68 or 69 that it did the rounds, and probably did the rounds for sure in 69, and if it was first released in 68, it was probably still making the rounds in 69. But this is the VHS, or at least the cut box version of the VHS cover, under that Monster and the Stripper title. So, Ron Ormond is kind of one of those regional filmmakers that kind of like some of his movies, and I got a little bit more of them here, like the Mesa of Lost Women, right, and then White Lightning Road. That's one of these moonshining movies, the hillbilly moonshining type movie, right? And then this might have worked, but it's more of an ape, but Untamed Mistress. Look, that's kind of a Bigfoot creature, but it's really a giant ape,
Huh.
But this one, Monster and the Stripper, aka the Exotic Ones, is I stretched it, like I said, a little bit. It's basically Sleepy LaBeef, rockabilly music, musician from going back to the 50s that played the creature, the Swamp Thing. And how would you describe him? Like I said, I had to stretch it. He doesn't look like a Bigfoot because he's technically not a Bigfoot. He's just a swamp creature. He has a little bit of tufts of hair glued onto his shoulders.
Yeah, and even that's a little bit of a push. I mean, it doesn't look. He looks basically just like a tall dude with a little bit of extra hair, like messed up teeth. So it's
yeah, and I think a prosthetic on maybe some sort of appliance to make his forehead stick out like Neanderthal-like or something a little bit.
This was the first time I ever saw this movie, but I will say it is almost like it's two different movies. It's like,
yeah,
it's almost literally like the first 45 minutes is basically about this strip club.
Yeah, and it's kind of its own sort of subgenre.
This is like a strip club plus, though. It's almost like a variety show place.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it's burlesque, I guess, right?
Burlesque,
This was sort of its own subgenre of drive-in exploitation films at that time. Which Herschel Gordon Lewis, everybody knows him as the splatter, godfather of gore, right? From Blood Feast and 2000 Maniacs and Wizard of Gore, et cetera, et cetera. But he was doing these types of things. And some of them would be called nudie cuties. A lot of them would be taking place in nudist camps or colonies or whatever, or burlesque shows like this one. So there was its own sort of little subgenre of things going around. And then the other parts of the story are built around it. In here, it's like a story going around, like the main guy, which, by the way, is the director. Ron Ormond plays, what's his name? Nemo or Nema?
Yeah.
The main guy that owns the club or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Nemo.
That's Ron Ormond himself, and his wife plays Bunny. which is the older woman of the club, that kind of like the madam of the club or whatever, right? So, but yeah, these types of movies were going around making that just subgenre out of exploitation films. And yeah, you got the Swamp Thing part of them going out there, and there's this legend of the creature out in the swamps that they want to, get and bring in and make part of the show, basically, right?
Yeah.
Have him be in a cage in the blood show in the background.
But it's almost directly split. It's like literally like the first 45 minutes of the movie are about that club and the people that work there and like the little stories they have going on. And then the back half of the movie is them hunting down and getting this creature and bringing it to the club.
And I think that's probably just has to do with that subgenre of burlesque type movies where, okay, we got this and it's going to be the basis. Then what can we do around it? We got this mafia stuff because, Nemo, the club owner, is also part of a criminal organization, mafia type or whatever in Louisiana. So you got that sort of backstory going on with the cop who's an investigator trying to find dirt on the club and dirt on Nemo or whatever to put him out of business and whatnot. So you got that angle going. Then you bring in the creature, right? They hint at the creature being out there in the swamp. And wouldn't it be cool if we can get our hands on the creature and make him be part of the act or whatever, And so, yeah, like you said, the last part of the movie is that kind of, or last half or so is them going out into the swamp with a crew and basically apprehending the creature. And there's one scene that's just. I
was about to say that leads to like the greatest scene in the movie. And we don't do deep spoilers here, but we have to talk about this because the creature just straight up pulls a dude's arm off and then he just beats him with the arm. I can't remember. He killed the guy, right?
Yeah. He dies, but he beats him with the arm. At first, you see it. You see the creature. And he's got the stump, because you see him pulling the arm and it's like the guy's jacket's ripping, right? And then you see the creature pull back, and then he's holding the full arm with a bloody stump at the end, and then he starts hitting the guy off camera. It's like a close-up of the creature hitting the guy. And then it shows a close-up of the guy's face bloodied with the stump. The arm is hitting him in the head, and he's like, it's like bitch slapping him with his arm, whatever, about 5 or 6 times. And then you end with his face in a close-up. Obviously, I mean, you're led to believe that he's killed by the arm, getting beat to death with his own arm.
I mean, and there's the clever little one-liners and stuff that are dropped into the movie that kind of keep it going, like comedy-wise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an entertaining, interesting flick. And there was another thing that I liked about it too was that fact that they showed so much of like 60s era Bourbon Street.
Yes, yeah, that was cool. That at night and in the daytime too, I think in a few scenes.
Yeah. So that was cool. If you kind of want that time capsule of, I would assume exactly what it would have looked like, because I'm sure they didn't do anything special here. Like they probably just stole those shots, right? They probably just took a camera and walked down Bourbon Street and ripped off a bunch of those marquees and just to keep the key points there in the French Quarter. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool time capsule of that era. And I mean, that's probably because Ron Ormond was like a regional filmmaker in that area, so he's probably kind of proud of the city at the time and showing it off. And kind of like filmmakers in New York and 42nd Street in that same era would put 42nd Street. It almost became a character itself in these movies. Like Taxi Driver is a good example of that.
What we do here on the Grindhouse Gutter is we let you kind of give 2 ratings. You give the Grindhouse Gutter rating, which is the best way we always describe it, is what makes it grindhousey. All those elements that you're looking for in these type of movies, combine them and give out a 0 through 10 number. 10 being the highest. And then you also give out, we don't do star ratings, we do genre ratings. So depending on what type of movie it is, you give a 0 through 5 rating on that. So with that being said, go ahead and give us your gutter rating first.
Yeah, the gutter rating is, it's 68, 69. So it's a little earlier in the pantheon of drive-in grind. Well, not really early for drive-in, but before you get ultra violence, even though you had Herschel Gordon Lewis doing gore at the time, this one is not as, it's not as gory as something like Blood Feast, although it's there. That scene that you've seen already, probably in in the B-roll footage.
Yeah.
It's the goriest scene in the movie, and but it's funny as hell. And there's a few more scenes like that. Like there's a aftermath. There's some be warned, be forewarned. There's at least 2 animal violence things in here. One, I believe, is a cow, the aftermath of a cow.
Oh yeah.
That is supposedly been killed by the creature.
Yeah.
I don't know what killed the cow. Really, I don't. Whatever the case, it's an actual cow's carcass that's like gutted and all kind of. She's sitting there on the ground, and they attribute it to.
That's pretty rough. Yeah.
And then the chicken. There's a they call that a geek show. Apparently, the thing back in the past in freak shows, there was the geek who would bite the head off of live chickens, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that was what they were kind of going for in one scene in the movie where they have the Swamp Thing creature on stage at the burlesque show, and he's in a cage, and they always time for feeding time for the creature. So he's got a chicken, and it's obviously a real chicken.
Yeah.
Now, to what degree Sleepy LaBeef does anything to it or whatever? At some point, it's a chicken carcass that he is like chewing on the neck or whatever. But I mean, the wings were flapping around at one point, so this chicken died, and that probably was eaten for the later on by the production or whatever the case. But be forewarned there for the people that don't want to see that type of thing. There's just those 2 scenes in here. You have obviously the burlesque stuff. There's no actual on-screen nudity in this movie. It's all pasties, right? The strippers are wearing pasties when they're doing their act and whatnot.
It comes pretty close, but not quite.
For those scenes of the creature, also there's some. I don't know if it was actually Sleepy LaBeef, but there was some rockabilly kind of numbers music in here, and then there was also one of the girls in the club is a singer, but she's not raw. She's more of a, you call it almost like a soul singer, just about. But she's one of the not really a stripper. This is a burlesque show, so there's a whole bunch of different things in there: musicians, strippers, other acts, right, or whatever. So you get a little bit of music in here too, a little bit of rockabilly and whatnot. And the creature is interesting. We've already described him, and you've seen him on the screen. Maybe not Bigfoot enough, but whatever. We squeezed it in here, right? I think I'll give it a 6, I guess, for the Grindhouse rating, because it's what you would expect from a early Grindhouse drive-in type film from this era in the late 60s.
Now, the real question, as far as your proper rating is concerned of the film, do you want to give it cleavers for like a horror movie, or would you want to give it X's because it is kind of like an exploitation movie as well?
Yeah, I guess I think we should maybe stick. I mean, because it skirts both. I mean, of course it's got that gore, the arm ripping and all that stuff, but as we mentioned, it's sort of 2 different or even 3 different movies going on here. The burlesque subgenre of exploitation films, that factors through the whole thing, but especially in the first half. By the time you get to the second half, as we mentioned, then it turns into the creature feature sort of thing. And again, this is my bias in these. We wouldn't be doing the Grindhouse Gutter probably if I didn't have bias towards these types of movies. So take it all with a grain of salt as far as my rating goes for these things. Your average person who doesn't watch exploitation Grindhouse movies would probably rate this a 1, if not below that, right? So we'll go with 2 3/4. There's 2 3/4 X's on this one. Although I'm probably leaning more towards 3. I'm trying to be a little bit more fair on it, I guess, as far as my bias is going through. I would give it a 3 probably, but I'll go with a 2 3/4. I think that's the most fair rating for it.
It is entertaining. I mean, there are parts that drag a little bit, but not much. I mean, it keeps you fairly. And I only say that like in those times where they're going to make you sit there and watch this whole singing part, or you're going to sit there and watch this entire dance. Get it. Let's move it along. But I know that's the kind of the end game of these type of movies back then.
Yeah.
So that was one of the appeals of this. So I get it, but in those moments it drags. But otherwise, I mean, it keeps you interested. So I could dig that.
It's almost like it's part of the subgenre, but also probably a way to pad out some time.
We're not quite done with the Sasquatch summer just yet, as far as Grindhouse Gutter is concerned. We've decided to put one more towards the beginning of August. So, with that in mind, what you dug around and what did you land on for next month?
It's going to be one that none of us have seen, and 1975, Curse of Bigfoot. Now, this is going to be probably a doozy, I guess, because judging from what we've seen on it. First of all, the IMDb rating, not that it really much matters, and I don't really care what IMDb has for ratings when it comes to Grindhouse drive-in movies, because most people are probably rating it based on them really, putting, like Star Wars being the ultimate or whatever, they're grading it on your average, probably moviegoer's experience of it, and it's got a 1.8, a whopping 1.8, I believe, on But like as we said though, when it comes to Grindhouse drive-in movies, that doesn't mean anything. It could be a 1.8, but it could be an entertaining 1.8, or it could be a completely boring piece of shit 1.8.
Yeah.
We'll find out, I guess, altogether, because none of us have seen it. So
that'll be interesting, and that will be literally one of the last things that we do here on the Sasquatch Summer, probably, depending on the timing and all that jazz. But yeah, we're pretty much going to put a pin in things. I think we've just about had our Sasquatch fill, especially by the time we hit that next month. So. Yeah,
and that usually kind of happens, right, with our specials. We start off, getting hot into it and stuff. But of course, with any subject really, when you focus on one thing, which is why I'm glad we're not a podcast that does focus on just one specific thing, because that would probably get old after a while. I mean, there are some out there that focus on we're only going to do, this one genre. We're only doing vampire movies. We're the vampire podcast, and no. That would get boring after a while.
We do primarily focus on horror, but we do so much other stuff now that it keeps it fresh. So I mean, tons of stuff, and you can check out all that stuff here on the YouTube channel. And of course, the All American Spookshow podcast comes out every Monday at 6 p.m. East, right here on the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast. So also go over to patreon.com/Spookshow. There's tons of stuff over there. These different little things that we've done over the years, and you get the episodes a day or two early. So yeah, tons of stuff going on here in the Spook Show universe. So stick with us throughout the rest of the Sasquatch Summer for about another month or so, and then sometime toward mid-August we'll be wrapping it up, and before you know it, man, we'll be ramping up towards Halloween season. So lots of big stuff coming up. So for Tiana, who couldn't be with us, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are from the All American Spook Show podcast, and we will talk to you next month. Thank you.